Call of Duty eps are honestly an art form, and it's because the clips, edit, and song have to work together perfectly in order to make such a beautiful episode. It doesn't matter how amazing the clips are. If the song and edit are horrible, the episode sucks, and vice versa. So when we have them all three mixed perfectly and they're at such a high level, it produces one of the most beautiful episodes you will ever see. So in today's video, I wanted to show you guys the top 10 best Call of Duty trick-shotting episodes of all time. At number 10, we have Soar Azza, Oh Azza, number 15 by Tigger. And honestly, this is a perfect episode where everything aligns. The clips so good, the edit so good, the song so good. Tigger did an amazing job. And honestly, if you weren't around during this time, Azza was just a consistent trick shotter. But when this episode came out, he became the top best MW2 trick shotter at this time, because at this time, complexity was more of like a mid-distance thing. No one really was doing anything crazy with it, but this was the first episode that really introduced complex distance, and he did it so well to where like it didn't look ugly at all. Like all the clips looked so good. Every single trick shot, complex distance shot looked so good, and it was crazy because Azza was never a complex trick shot, and then all of a sudden he's hitting bangers like this. Like all these were openers too. It's such an insane episode. I love this episode so much. Like personally, this is like a top 3 episode for me, but in the general list, it ends up at number 10. At number 9, we have Introducing Red MJD by Robot. Now this episode is honestly like people, this is probably like BO2 trick shotters like holy grail somewhat. Like it has to be like in the room of the holy grails, and it's because MJD is just such a unique trick shotter. And before this episode, not much people knew about MJD, so when this came out, it put him on the map. This made him who he is today, and he became one of the most respected trick shotters ever. One of the most, honestly, the top 2 most favorited trick shotters of all time, and definitely one of the best trick shotters there ever was on BO2. And Robot did a sick job with the edit. The song really hits hard. I know I recognize that MW2 and BO2 episodes are kind of different in like style of edits and songs, but BO2 perspective, this is extremely good and definitely deserves to be in the top 10. It just so happened to hit the number 9 spot. At number 8, we have Introducing Synergy Beats by Leo. Now, honestly, this is another example when all 3 hit super hard, super duper hard, and it's because Beats is one of the most creative trick shotters I've ever seen on BO2. Leo did an absolutely amazing job where his edit matches his trick shots perfectly. They look so good with his edit, and the song just hits so well. Everything hits at a high level, and when you see that it's a work of art, and Beats' episode was a work of art, it looks so amazing. His shots were next level, better than so many people's at this time. Honestly, these were the best shots hit at this time. The only thing that kind of like hits it back because these were like setup shots, and not a lot of people were doing setup at this time, so it was still like a very new thing. But wow, like seeing this for the first time was incredible, and even till now it is incredible. So I definitely think Introducing Synergy. At number 7, we have Introducing FaZe XymZ by Distract. Now, this is at the time when FaZe was really blowing up at BO2, and XymZ was the best trick shotter in FaZe at this time. So all the love went straight to XymZ after this episode, because he was undeniably the best BO2 trick shotter in FaZe at this time. And every single clip in this episode is super good. The edit is super solid by Distract. The song is good as well. I definitely will say this is a BO2 episode. Like I feel like a lot of like people outside BO2 really don't really care much about this episode, which is why it's ranked so low. But with that being said, it's still an extremely good episode. If you're a BO2 fan, this is probably like your top 2, top 1 best episodes of all time. But because it's kind of just like it's like, it feels exactly just like a BO2 episode. So if you're not a fan of BO2, you're kind of like whatever about this episode, which is why, even though as great as it is, it falls to the number 7 spot. At number 6, we have Synergy Ekmosh Hot and Ready Episode 4 by Ollie. Now, I'm gonna start off saying that Ollie did an amazing job. He always does an amazing job. He uses rock songs, and for this specific episode, it worked so well with his clips. So well with his clips. And his edit, he always does an amazing job on edit. Super duper good, super duper high level, and he does an amazing job for someone who's very complex and creative to show off the clips extremely well. And I think it's because he edits for the gods, so he kind of has to. If you don't know, the gods were super complex, creative type of people, so I feel like he had to do that. So this was great experience to show off such a beautiful episode. But now for Ekmosh. Ekmosh is honestly one of the best episode makers I've ever seen. He does an amazing job, and he also does multi-cod. And you would think like his skill would dilute over all the other CODs. No. Every single clip on every single COD, super cool, super entertaining, super creative. He does such an amazing job hitting such entertaining clips. They're so good. And overall, this episode is, I would honestly say this episode might be perfect too. I think the only thing that hits it a little bit is that I think episodes that are multi-COD just don't hit as hard as just like one individual COD. It's just more favorable when you just see one COD the whole time. But with that being said, it's such a beautiful web, and I think it deserves the number 6 spot. At number 5, we have Introducing Sorkud by Storm. Oh man, to me, honestly, this is the perfect example of a perfect Call of Duty episode. This is, like, honestly, as nerdy as it sounds, if you could display, like, you know how they say NFTs, if you can put like a video and sell it as an art piece, this would go up there and be this is so dumb, but this would have a high price tag, because this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Like, if you could sell the rights to this thing, oh my, you would make so much money. But it's just beautiful. Everything is perfect. Koo's clips was the best MW2 treasure at this time. Every single clip, absolutely amazing. Storm, one of the best editors for Call of Duty Trickshotters, who are very complex and such, because he does such an amazing job displaying the trick shots really well to where none of it's cut off. And then the song, super good. Storm's edit, super good. His clips, super good. Oh my gosh, this episode's perfect. It's perfect. It's one of the best MW2 episodes of all time. I think the only problem is it just doesn't have like the influence as the next 4 do. But if you were to ask me what is the perfect Call of Duty episode, I would say Introducing Sorkud, and it just so happened to hit the 5th spot. At number 4, we have Soar Shay Shay's Way Episode 4 by Nixer. This episode is honestly another perfect episode, really perfect. The only reason why I think like Koot's the perfect episode is because this edit can be like disliked or liked by most people, but that is not the point of this episode, because yes, the clips are perfect too. The edit are biasedly perfect, and the song is biasedly perfect as well. But what really hits home is the influence of this episode. If you don't know, Shay was the one that really started the complex revolution of trickshotting. And before that, everyone was just going for a clean distance. So Shay was just like the front runner, the face of complex trickshotting. And for him to become from him going from a nobody to becoming a somebody and releasing this episode, he had the Introducing Soar Shay, which was really, really, really good. But like once everyone knew who Shay was, he released this one, and now everyone knew who he was. So he was beyond loved, beyond like respected, and this ep just showed everyone why that is. And it's such an amazing episode, such an unbelievably beautiful episode. The edit is so good. He did such an amazing job. It's very unique and creative, and it matches perfectly with Shay's trickshotting style. Complex, unique, and creative. And Ah man, it's like, even if you don't know what trickshotting is, I recommend just to go watch this episode, because this really shows like what kind of people we are, I guess, like how like unique, creative, like even nowadays, I don't know, I still feel like edits like this are very rare. You never see anything like this, and even if you've never seen quality trickshotting before, you should watch this. This is beautiful. So with that being said, I definitely think it deserves the number 4 spot. At number 3, we have Introducing FaZe Hateful by Meek. This is the ultimate Cinderella story we saw. This was actually the first Cinderella story we saw, from someone coming from nothing to joining FaZe, and it was just a really cool experience to see, because this was happening during the FaZe 5. This is the first ever FaZe 5 that happened, and we had somebody named Bruise Rockies. Who is Bruise Rockies? I have no idea. Come from nothing to joining FaZe, becoming FaZe Hateful, and we saw that whole journey. It was beautiful, and seeing it all being wrapped up in this episode was extremely cool. But not only that, the clips are extremely good, and this was at the time where like personality was kind of like coming in just a little bit, so like we were seeing like his reactions, we were seeing like Hateful himself like expressing his emotions. So when we saw these clips, we were reminded of his reaction and such. So it was such a amazing episode. The edit by Meek, beautiful. He always does an amazing job. He's obviously he's in FaZe, so like explains like he's able to do what he needs to do. And the song, super duper good. It was another Logic song, but who doesn't love Logic from the Trickshottings community? I mean, everyone was using him at that time. So this episode is extremely iconic, and it's just something you would never see again, honestly. Like even nowadays, you don't even see that anymore. Someone comes from nothing to something from FaZe, obviously. So like to be able to see this for the first time and feel like you're a part of the experience, it was really beautiful. And this episode is honestly one of my favorite episodes I've ever seen, and definitely one of the most iconic episodes of all time. So I definitely think it deserves the number 3 spot. At number 2, we have Introducing Genesis Nigma by Oopsie. Now, I got a lot of comments asking, how come you didn't put Nigma in any other top 10s? And it's because he's a tricky person to put in. But in the top 10 episodes, I felt like it was undeniable that he had to be inserted in the list somewhere. And if you don't know Nigma is the most respected trick shotter there ever was in the community. And it's because he would hit insane shots that were like 2-3 years ahead of everyone else every single time. But there was a caveat to it. It would take him like 6 months to hit the shot. Like he had to like power up, like he had to just like he had to absorb so much energy, and then finally when he can release in 6 months, he hits a 6 shot. That's pretty much what it would happen. And it came to the point where I remember there was rumors, like my friend would tell me, like, oh, he got asked to join FaZe, but he denied him to stay with homies because that's how cool Nigma is. I mean, that should tell you a lot of how people saw him. That I don't know if that was true or not, but the fact that people believed in that rumor just shows you how much respect people had for Nigma, that he was so good that he didn't need FaZe. But anyways, these episodes he did lived up to the hype. He made us wait 3-4 years for this episode, and it still lived up to the hype. And it was just a beautiful episode because he went off on Ghost, so there was a lot of Ghost clips of like newer clips, but he also showed clips from back in the day where he was going off and he was loved. And then the crazy part is that these clips were still pretty good. I mean, I guess it held true that he was really ahead of the time. They were still really good. And I think what made it so beautiful is that it was like a story of Nigma. Like, we never saw like anything from Nigma from that time, like once every like 6-7 months, but to be able to see like his full, well, at the time, full story of all his clips all together, and seeing like the phases of Trickshot, it was really cool to see. So not only was it a beautiful ep, it was a beautiful story too. And the edit with Oopsie and the song that she used was beautiful too. It was just overall just he did the impossible and lived up to the hype of the episode, and also created a beautiful episode with an amazing story. And it was just like a nice nostalgia trick, but and also just like a beautiful entertaining episode. So I definitely think it deserves the number 2 spot. At number 1, we have introducing FaZe Fakey. I will honestly die on this hill. Might be a little bit of a biased take, but this is the right take. And it's because your favorite trickshotter probably started trickshotting when he saw this episode. This is the first episode that really blew up from trickshotting, and this is from way back 2011 when trickshotting was really unheard of. This is the first episode that blew up and put trickshotting on the map. It showed people what trickshotting was. And at the time, imagine you've never seen a trick shot in your entire life, and then you saw this. Mind blown. Absolutely mind blown. And what was the first thing you thought of when you see this? I want to try this. Your favorite trick shotter was that person. And who knows what trick shotting would have been if this episode didn't exist. Look how many people it inspired, and look how many beautiful episodes recreated. The 9 episodes I just mentioned. Who knows if they would have even existed if it weren't for this episode. FaZe Fakey inspired, I would honestly say, millions of people to trick shot. And definitely millions of people to watch trickshotting. And this is the core episode that started it all. This is such a beautiful episode. The clips mind-blowing at the time. The edit nostalgic, the song beautiful. This is the best Call of Duty trickshotting episode of all time. Let me know what you think. Would you add some or take some off? Did you agree or disagree? Let me know what you think, and I hope you have a nice day.